Thank you for watching Murder, Monsters, and Mysteries. Today we take a look at the vampire in Ontario. When you first drive into Wilno, you see a huge church and cemetery. What many people don't know is there is another cemetery in Wilno called St. Stanislaus. Everyone buried in this cemetery has stakes through their hearts and their heads removed. The townspeople of Wilno were deathly afraid of vampires. Established in 1859, Wilno, Ontario, Canada, is the oldest Polish settlement in Canada. In modern times, the area is a tourist destination, which still holds an old world charm, and this town has a rich heritage. Residents, who are largely Polish, remain proud of their home, its heritage, and its history. This picturesque village in the heart of the Ottawa Valley does have a lot to take pride in. However, Wilno, Ontario has a darker side, one that involves vampires. Author Jan Perkowski was employed by the National Museum of Man from 1968 to 1969. His job was funded to conduct research for the Canadian Centre for Folk Culture Studies. Originally, Perkowski was a dialect scholar from Austin, Texas, but he was sent to the Wilno area to discover Kisubian folklore and traditions. During his investigation, he uncovered chilling tales of vampires that bore little resemblance to Bram Stoker's Dracula. These creatures were otherwise ordinary people who bore certain marks at birth. After they were buried and dead, their corpses would rise from the graves at midnight, wander into the homes of their family members, and kill their kin by drinking their blood. After it had dealt with the family, the vampire would make its way over to the church and ring the bell. Those who heard the bell ring would die within a year. There were ways to prevent the vampires from tormenting the living. One method involved pouring sand into the vampire's mouth, and that way it couldn't rise unless it counted every grain. Another was to put some poplar wood under the vampire's tongue. But in the end, most of the time, they resorted to driving the nail through the vampire's head, decapitating it, and putting a stake through the heart.
From the evil one, deliver me.
From the evil one, deliver me.
At the hour of my death,
At the hour of my death,
call me and bid me to come to thee.
call me and bid me to come to thee.
Give me the compass. If you don't, we'll take her eyes. We'll take your family's eyes. We'll make this whole town blind.
From the evil one, deliver me.
From the evil one, deliver me.
At the hour of my death,
At the hour of my death,
Probably should have come here first.
come to thee.
call me and bid me.
His studies led to a 1972 publication entitled Vampires, Dwarves, and Witches Among the Ontario Cashubs. This was an 85-page report, which later inspired articles by such diverse publications as Psychology Today, the Canadian Magazine, and the National Enquirer. In fact, controversy and attention stirred up by this report was so widespread and hurtful in the eyes of some of the residents that it was denounced on the floor of the House of Commons. Not surprisingly, because it was Canadian tax dollars that funded this research. Perkowski's report begins with a picture of a small grave enclosed by a white picket fence. The quote under the photograph says that if a vampire is not destroyed before he is buried, he rises again and carries off his relatives and others in the neighborhood. It happened in Wilno. They had to dig it up and cut off the head while he sat in the coffin. If Perkowski hadn't anticipated this sensationalistic reaction in the beginning, he certainly received one. He was definitely one of the first researchers to explore the vampiric connection to the Kashubian, or for that matter, the Eastern European folklore. Many years prior to the report, Frederick Lorenz wrote about it in A Kashubian Civilization. He quotes Lorenz within the body of his own report. The vampire is called Vezki, or Wupji, by the Kashubians. The man who becomes a vampire after his death was destined to it from his birth. If destined to become a Vezki, he wears a little cap on his head at his birth. The future Wupji is born with 2 teeth. The latter is the more dangerous of the two, since his becoming a Wupji cannot be prevented before the death of the man. But if one takes the little cap from the head of the future Vezki, dries it, grinds it to dust, when the child is 7 years old, and gives it to the child with his drink, all danger is averted. But after death, the vampire can always be recognized, whether Vezki or Wupji. He becomes cold slowly, retains the red color of his face and lips. His limbs do not stiffen. Spots of blood often appear on his face and under his fingernails. If, however, all precautions have been neglected, there remains only one remedy. One must open the tomb of the vampire at midnight and drive a long nail into his forehead, or, better still, cut off his head with a sharp blade and put it between his feet. Perkowski, when he conducted his study, he interviewed local area residents, whom he referred to as informants. He utilized questionnaires and transcribed notes from taped conversations. The following are examples taken from the report. Informant 8 told him, "Something came in the night and drew blood from her arm. It was a vampire. It came to my daughter at night and took marrow. There was a sign. A ring was visible. She was weak and had all her blood drawn out." Informant 12. "Mother said that I had a cap on the head and that it was burned. Such a person is supposed to be lucky, but I don't know." Informant 12 does not recall ingesting ashes when she was 7, but this is something her mother would hardly announce to her. The ashes were probably hidden in her favorite food. These quotes certainly appear to strengthen a strong superstitious belief system in Wilno. However, as the participants remain confidential, they are impossible to verify. It is also impossible to verify the mutilations of corpses, to know what actually occurred, in particular, to confirm that these deceased were vampires. So it remains a mystery. Thank you for watching Murder, Monsters, and Mysteries. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe, as we'll be uploading more regularly.